Okay, we are live. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm just going to let people join before we get started, but excited to have you all here today. Excited for the conversation we have in store today. I see some of my guests already joining in, so alhamdulillah. Welcome everyone, and welcome to our Black Muslimas Shining series, a series put on by the Canadian Council of Muslim Women to center and amplify the work and contributions of Black Muslim women to our communities and to the vitality of our communities. I'm really excited for the conversation that we have happening today. We have 3 exemplary and dynamic women who will be joining us, and I'll be engaging them with their insights and experiences as Black Muslim women leading change. So my name is Zahra Grant. I'm a national board member of the Canadian Council of Muslim Women, and I'm just really excited to get started. So I'm going to start inviting some of our guests before I introduce them, so we can get started. Okay, so bear with me here a little bit. Ganiyat, and then I think I got our next one. Assalamu alaikum, Ganiyat. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing okay. How are you?
Not too bad, alhamdulillah. Okay, this is my first time actually adding more than one. Okay, I think I got it. Go live as well. So that worked?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I was talking to Sister Afua earlier. Assalamu alaikum, Hannan. Welcome.
Hi, how are you guys?
Not too bad, alhamdulillah. So excited for our talk today, inshallah. So we're just waiting for Sister Afua, inshallah. I thought I gave her pretty good instructions how to get on, but she might be having some difficulty, so we'll just give a couple moments. How are you guys doing?
Good. How about you guys?
I'm good.
Good, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. The sun is shining, but it's still cold. I mean, I was a little freaked out yesterday. It snowed here in Toronto. I wasn't into that, but oh, I'm getting some. Thank you, Yeshia. She's coming. Yes, some technical difficulty. I appreciate that update. So it goes sometimes. So no worries. We are patient people. So it is all good. Really honored to have Sister Afua join us today. So honestly, we have no problem waiting. But it's a beautiful Saturday. Where are you right now? You're in Ottawa, Hannan?
No, I'm still in Edmonton.
No? In Edmonton? And Ganiyat, you're in Edmonton as well?
Yeah, I'm actually from Calgary, but I'm in Edmonton this weekend for the film festival, the Oscars Film Festival. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That sounds exciting. Okay, so I think, hold on. I'm seeing some names. Sorry, everyone. Just bear with us. We're just getting one more to join the conversation before we get started. Okay. Bear with me here. It's like it scrolls up. Oh no, I thought I saw her join, but maybe I didn't because I'm not seeing her anymore. Hold on. I'm going to search. Oh, I think I see her. Inshallah, that worked. But again, welcome everyone. We're just waiting to get started on our Black Muslimas Shining Instagram Live today. We're going to be talking about Black Muslim women leading change in our communities, a really important conversation. Really excited for the guests we have today. Okay, you know what? What I'll do is I'll just introduce you two. Inshallah, if Sister Afua finds us, it does look like I did send a request, but there could be some connection issues or something, so she can join the conversation a little bit later, inshallah. Yeah, it's saying pending or it's saying cancel, so I'm assuming it means it's been sent. So Not a problem. I'm just going to introduce. Let's get started. So I'm so pleased to have Ganiyat Sadiq here with me today. Ganiyat Sadiq is a research and policy professional who has been recognized as Alberta's top 30 under 30. She aims to establish substantial solutions to address growing political and social inequity through the facilitation of purposeful conversations with policymakers, institutions, and citizens. These interests are reflective of the IMX movement, a social community founded by Ganiyat that seeks to raise awareness of the injustices faced by Black, Indigenous, and racialized individuals, as well as providing a safe space to share their experiences. Mashallah, mashallah. She also co-founded and serves as the president of the Black Inclusion Association, a novel nonprofit that aims to achieve equity and social justice for Black Albertans. Currently, Ganiyat is a fourth-year student in the political science program and an international relations program at the University of Calgary. So pleased to have you with me here today, Ganiyat, or with us. I was able to engage with you on a previous Ccmw project, the DARE project, and that was an awesome, beautiful conversation. So really happy to be able to expand a little bit more today.
Yeah, thank you for
Okay,
having me.
Not a problem. Let me just do a quick check-in to see if my sis Afua has made it, but nope. Okay. And Hannan Mohamud, welcome, welcome. So happy to have you here with us today as well. Hannan is a lawyer at the English Common Law faculty. Prior to joining the faculty, Hannan is an award-winning policy and legal researcher with a successful track record in citizen engagement and mobilization. As an undergraduate student at the University of Alberta, Hannan studied a dual BA in psychology and sociology. Her research explored the importance of understanding the historical and contemporary oppression and trauma on policy development and decision-making. She has advised political parties, consulted organizations, and writes about the need for an intersectional and critical race analysis on a freelance basis. Currently, Hannan works with the Canadian Human Rights Commissioner's Office, and Hannan has been elected by her peers to be a board member on the University of Ottawa's Board of Governors, mashallah, and she has also recently joined the Canadian Council of Muslim Women's Board of Directors that she has, and her passions for access to mental health services for Black folks has also allowed her to be recently appointed as a member on the Kids Helpline's newest Rise Up Black Advisory Council. So you keep yourself busy, mashallah, mashallah. So pleased to have you both with me today. Excited to get into some questions. So I'll start with you, Hannan. So Hannan, you are a law student at the University of Ottawa and, heavily involved in work on anti-Black racism. Was being a lawyer something you sort of always knew from a young age? And what was sort of your inspiration and motivation for seeking a career in law?
So for me, growing up, I always thought the law was something that I could use to protect me and my loved ones. Protection, even the idea of protection was something that I always tried to strive for. Like, how can you feel more protected in a society when I didn't know why I didn't feel so protected? And so starting out and going into a BA, I noticed that it's not just the idea of protection being so vague to me. It's the idea that not acknowledging the systems that are set up that I thought that would protect us were the ones that are made to make us feel unprotected. And so instead of wanting to feel protected, I started to develop a mindset that was like, how do we start going forward in a society that has tried so hard to subjugate and displace so many of us for so long? And I think that's where my Muslim identity helped me a lot. It made me realize that, being Black and Muslim, there's so much rahmah there, subhanAllah. You start to see that it's not systems or humans or even yourself that can make you feel protected. It's really believing in God, surrounding yourself with community members that also believe in God, where you can start to see that, inshallah, it's not just me or, us three that can make us all feel safe. It's really a community and believing in Allah's rahmah that can protect us.
That's beautiful, mashallah. I'm curious, how have you navigated sort of the more laws have historically been used to subjugate. So how have you find studying now within this institution, navigating that, your identity as a Black Muslim woman, studying law, basically?
Not gonna lie, like it's obviously very hard. There's always moments where I'm thinking this is not objective at all. Like this clearly was made for a certain purpose. Like when I talk about hate crimes a lot of people say we can't try to regulate it, freedom of speech, yada yada. But then I'm like, what about defamation? Like it's not that
Mm-hmm.
hard for any news network to go and sue someone for bad mouthing their CEO because they defame them. Freedom of speech isn't something that you see in those conversations. So being able to always enter conversations and say like my gut feels weird and then noting that and then doing my own research and saying like okay this is why my gut felt weird. So
Exactly.
it's hard to talk to like faculty and students sometimes because there's not a lot of Black Muslim women in these spaces, but you know, connecting with people like Ganiyat and even yourself, I'm able to have conversations and say like okay this is why I felt that way like 2 days
Mm-hmm.
ago.
Mashallah, and able to really unpack it.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. All right, Ganiyat, gonna get into your work now. Like most of your work has been at the forefront of leading change and pushing the voices of the underrepresented from margins to center. You have founded and co-founded many organizations and communities such as the IMX movement and the Black Inclusion Association. What was some of the inspiration and motivation for you to take these steps? What did you see as lacking in your community that these organizations seek to address?
Yeah, thank you. So I think the motivation was, frankly, I was just very tired of like a lot of the stereotypes that were just being normalized and they would just kept manifesting in such a violent way. And then when I, for example, created the IMX movement, which is when I think I started like stepping my foot into like activism and advocating on a more serious level, I just realized that a lot of the policies I think Hannan touched on, and then just a lot of like what I was learning in school, it was just rooted in so many misconceptions, especially regarding Muslims. You know, I always attribute the Christchurch attack to me, like kind of realizing like how big of a problem Islamophobia was. And I was like, okay, what was rooted in that is like a lot of people, you know, still perceive Muslims as terrorists. And why is that? Because that's the narrative that they're seeing in the news. That's what their parents were taught that they're transferring over to their kids, you know, just the same vicious message just being cycled around. So when I was creating the IMX movement specifically, I was like, okay, first of all, no one has the right to deem what is Muslim as opposed to another Muslim. You know, everyone's Islam is personal to them. So first, I wanted people to stop imposing labels on what it meant to be Muslim, and then that also transferred to me being like, I wanted people to stop imposing what it means to be like just different parts of your identity. You know, what it means to be a Black Muslim woman, what it means to be a woman. You know, so many people just attribute and then you're like, you're this. You know, and then everyone has the opportunity to identify themselves, how they want to represent themselves, how they want to represent their faith. So that's what I find a lot of my work is rooted in. And then for when I'm doing like the Black Inclusion Association, I think with everyone post George Floyd, everyone's realizing how systemically rooted racism is. But I think, you know, people are like doing surface level solutions. A lot of people say the system is broken. I'm like, the system is working the way it's supposed to work. This is what it was created for. So if you want to break it down, you need to break it down institutionally. And, you know, they're in doing that, they're still not listening to Black voices, which is something that we were seeing, you know, whether it be with ageism, racism, people not listening to Black youth, especially. So that's kind of the things that have been motivating me. Yeah, if that makes sense.
That's amazing, and that is
Yeah.
beautiful. And it does look like Sister Afua did just join. I thought I saw her name flash. Let me just try one more time. I saw her appear up, but I'm gonna try to send the invite again and see if we could get her in on the conversation. Sister Afua, if you could hear me, do you want to comment? Salaam alaikum. Yes, salaam alaikum, Yashia. Yashia, is that you, Habiba? It's saying unable to join. Habiba, are you with your mom by any chance? I can't email, unfortunately. But if it looks like she joined okay. She just, yes, I can do that.
Uh,
I'm not, are you guys able to see the comments as they come in?
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Are you, Habiba, are you with your
No,
mom?
she says
Is
that
that
Dr. Fu is alone.
okay? I missed that. Okay, I'm going to try to send the invite
I
one more
think
time.
Iman said that she would send it.
Oh, okay, Iman can send it. Okay,
Hmm.
Yeah.
perfect. Yes,
Perfect.
because I can't. I think I would close the live if I leave the window. I
Yeah.
think. I mean, I definitely don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So inshallah, Sister Afua will be able to get it eventually, but we'll just move on to the next question, inshallah, I have for you guys, because I can imagine as change leaders, sort of how when you're coming to establishing change and challenging dominant narratives and norms in our society like that and communities, it's not an easy task. It can get overwhelming, it could get daunting, it could be exhausting. So just on a more lighter note and a more self-care tip, which is so important to the work of activism and change making, what are some strategies you guys use to stay grounded when it does get so overwhelming? And maybe, Ganiyat, I could start with you.
Yeah, for sure. I think like community has been such a big help, talking with other Black Muslim women. I find that is my self-care. Because it's I think coming from a place where you've kind of been talking to people for a while and then no one kind of understands your experience. But then
Mm.
on the flip side, when you like are talking with so many Black Muslim women, you don't even have to explain yourself that much. And then there's just this level of understanding that I just loved it. Like the first time I experienced it, I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna keep doing. And even if it's not necessarily going through the same experiences, I think it just there's so much warmth and compassion that I've seen from other Black Muslim women has been something that I find very rooted in like how I take care of myself. We
Mm.
talk about taking care of ourselves in like the more capitalist self-care way and like doing face masks, which is I love a good face mask. But I think also a lot of it's rooted in like a lot of community care, having people you can talk to, and even just if it's just venting to, and having that knowing that there's someone that has your back. Regardless is something that I think just having a good support system essentially has been really beneficial
Absolutely.
for me.
Absolutely. And what about you, Hanan? What are some strategies you use for yourself?
So for me, I agree with Ganiyat completely. Like being able to talk to Black Muslim women is the most enriching, fulfilling, laughing experience you can ever like. If you don't have a Black Muslim friend, I'm so sorry. Like you need to go find one. You need to go and talk to her because I always feel rejuvenated after. Like Ganiyat and I, the first time we met, like we had no business talking for 2 hours.
No.
It wasn't 3 hours, but we bonded so quickly. And I think the conversation was just like mentorship, like the topic of mentorship. But I was like, no, like I see a sister here. I see friendship here. Like there's no way that type of like I don't know how to explain it, like classist educational hierarchy applies with our type of sisterhood. Oh, is that Dr. Afua?
I think so.
I
Maybe
think so. I think I see
she has
something
to
happening.
flip the camera, perhaps.
Oh
I think
yeah, the camera.
Yeah,
How
I
do you
think that
you have
flip
to
it?
flip your camera, Sister Afua. Salam alaikum.
um, it's just at the
I hope
bottom. Like there's like
uh, if you look at the bottom of your screen, there should be like I think it's like the arrow circles, right?
mhm.
That flips around your camera. Can you hear us, Sister Afua? I can't hear her, though. That's what I'm worried about. I don't know if we have audio happening.
Oh,
This is fun.
It could be the mic button. She might have pressed it. There's like a
Oh,
mute
oh,
she
button.
left. Yeah,
oh,
maybe she stepped away, and we'll try to figure it out. And inshallah,
mhm.
she'll get back to us.
Inshallah.
But yeah, sorry to interrupt, Hanan.
No, you're good. I was just saying like companionship is one, and the other one is I used to like to journal a lot, but then now I don't have enough time for it. And the reason I used to do that was to kind of reflect a lot on how I've grown. So I can check like, am I getting indoctrinated? Am I starting to be more accepting of things that I previously haven't been. It's also very helpful for like my Muslim identity to be able to say, you know, I'm noticing my ni'mah and my rahmah are going down, and like my iman in certain areas. Like how do I check myself and say like you're praying late, for instance, but you're going to class on time. So I noticed that because I wasn't journaling as often, I changed it to talking to my parents more. So now I'm like doing daily, like 3 times check-ins where they're asking me those questions to help me reflect. And honestly, having your parents notice and check you is the most fulfilling. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I am so grateful to them. And no one has seen me grow as much as they have. Like, they're your ultimate checkers. So I'm very blessed that I've been able to stay with them for the last 2 years and do my law degree from home. So they're able to like use that experience and tell me now, like, Hannan, like you've grown in these areas and congratulate me, but also say like, Hannan, you're not doing this as often. Like you're doing your chores late. Like what's going on? So they're able to tell when I'm overwhelmed before I even can like tap that.
They know you better than you know yourself. They know
Exactly.
your
Right.
patterns. I love that you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned journaling. Journaling is also something that I recently got into, and it actually is really a really nice practice, even just for self-reflection, right? And it doesn't have to be like whatever narrative style works for you. One day it might just be a date and jotting down the
Yeah.
feelings you felt that day. Next day you might have more of a narrative like this happened and you're venting, but like then to be able to go back and you start to recognize patterns in yourself. You start to recognize like how you've grown, maybe yeah, you have regressed and you're like, ooh, I kind of don't like that I do that
Yeah.
quite frequently. Like, you start to,
Yeah.
it's such a real good mirror and such a great tool for self-reflection and growth, and I highly recommend, so thank you for
Mm-hmm.
sharing that.
Of
Okay,
course.
let's just do a quick check-in for Sister Afua. And nope, yes, I'm seeing. Let's try this, inshallah.
Inshallah, it
And
works.
Inshallah.
yep,
I
I
think,
see something
oh,
happening. Assalamu
there
alaikum,
we
Sister
go.
Afua.
Walaikum salam. Can you hear me?
I can
Yes.
Yeah.
definitely hear you, alhamdulillah, and we
Yay.
Good.
see you.
You do? Oh my gosh, mashallah.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome. We're so, so honored to have you join us. Honestly, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
You're
Um,
most welcome.
Yes, mashallah. Okay, I'm going to give a brief bio and overview of Sister Afua. So Sister Afua is a multidisciplinary scholar, author, artist. Dr. Afua Cooper is a fellow at the Warren Center for Studies in American History, Harvard University. She is the principal investigator for People's History of Canada project, housed at Dalhousie University, where she teaches and is a Killam Research Chair. Dr. Cooper was honored by Maclean's magazine as one of 50 most influential Canadians, a celebrated poet. Dr. Cooper was awarded with the Portia White Prize, Nova Scotia's highest recognition for the arts. She's also the winner of the J.M. Abrahams Atlantic Poetry Award for her poetry book, Black Matters. And honestly, Sister Afua, that does not do you even a gram of justice. If there
Thank
is
you.
any a person of iconic level when I think of Black Muslims leading change, you are legendary. You are the Beyonce of multidisciplinary scholarship and art,
Yeah.
okay? You have contributed
Good dog.
so
Yes.
much to education, to history, to the arts. So when we want to talk about leading change, you exemplify that leadership, and you are so meaningful to me, and I'm sure to so many in the community. You know, you have the power to shift, and your legacy really shows in how you have shifted and shaped Black history in Canada and how it's recognized from your groundbreaking. I mean, I had to bring it out, okay? The hanging of Angelique, you know, from you really disrupted the way slavery was talked about in Canada. We really owe that to you. From how you've also held major cultural institutions accountable for perpetuating racism. I'm thinking here of when you were behind the rallying of getting the Royal Ontario Museum to
Mm-hmm.
apologize for racist practices, to then also your contributions in the arts, okay? Calling out microaggressions in your dub poetry, one of my favorite pieces, personal fave, and I'm sure for so many others. I don't care if your nanny was Black and you eat grits for breakfast every morning. and you knew a black girl in high school and she was nice. I don't care. So I really had to take this moment to give you your flowers because you deserve them and so many more. So inshallah, I'm just really happy to be able to have you here and engage in this conversation. So welcome.
Thank you, Zara, for such a warm introduction. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Alhamdulillah.
We do it for God. We do it fi sabilillah. And thank you to my two fellow panelists. And I apologize for the technical difficulty.
Oh no, you're
No,
It's okay.
no, it is all good. We got started. It is all good. We always keep it moving and keep it pushing, but we're absolutely honored to have us join. So I'll get into a question with you then, Sister Afua, if you don't
Okay.
mind.
Yes,
So as a change maker and leader, many of your battles have been long and hard fought, and you have so much to be proud of. So give us a little insight in the early trajectory, inshallah, of your history, and what were some of your early observations and insights into the Black experience in Canada that really helped to motivate and inspire your work?
yes. Thank you. I just felt I was always upset at the way how Black people were treated in this country. So for students in high school and primary school, I have children too who went through the system. So it's at every in every institution there's this anti-Blackness, and so it's as if Black people didn't belong, or Black people were not seen as part of humanity and part of the human race, and somehow they should be grateful for scraps, you know. So like, what are you complaining about? You should be happy just to be alive, sort of thing. So it was the viciousness of white supremacy, especially when I see how it played out with children, how from an early age our children are made to feel less than, how their dreams are crushed, how, by the time they're 15, the whole, everyone as human beings, Allah put it in us to self-actualize. We are all here to self-actualize. But it seems that the society that is, didn't want that for Black people. It's like, we should know our place. You're here to serve. You're here to be inferior. Don't you know your place? So that has been, coming from a background. I was born in Jamaica, and being raised by people, by parents, by grandparents, being a community, raised by a community in which, children were valued, and there wasn't any sort of mental barriers placed in our way, for example, like whether it was in the country, because I was born in a rural community, and then I went to live in Kingston, which is a big city, big metropolitan city, working class family. But at the same time, people had this huge conceptual space and this mental space that you could do whatever you wanted to do. Of course, there was a usual thing, right? A little kid who wanted to be a nurse or a teacher, or a policeman or a fireman. But then as you start to grow and go to high school, then your world opens up. Oh, you could be a marine biologist, that sort of thing. But no one said no. No one said you couldn't. Then I came to Canada and it was like, oh, maybe you should just be a domestic worker or a factory worker. That kind of blew my mind. Because here, which is supposed to be progressive, modern, democratic country, there were so many limits placed on Black people, on Black children as to what they could achieve. So it is, this country needs to give Black people an apology, not just the one that the Ram gave for the exhibit, but a national apology to all of us. But I'm also thinking that, in the midst of, these ism and schisms, the the important thing, like when we show resistance and we show resilience, the important thing is for people to come together, to kind of, there's this saying about organize, and Stokely Carmichael, or what does he say? He says, organize, organize, organize. Because the powers that be, they don't want you to survive. They don't want you to organize. They just want to put all of it in prison. But we now have to organize and to resist those forces. One way to do it is through education. Like, I've gone through the system. I've done a PhD. I teach at a university. I'm a poet. There are many ways to do it. Education is critical. But the work has to be multifaceted. It has to be education. We have to come together. Unity is strength. We have to support each other. It is a big fight, but it's as someone said, it's a righteous burden. And this is where I think faith is important, to have faith, to be grounded in spirituality, because you can be just angry for so long, right?
Absolutely.
Anger is good because it propels you, it pushes you forward. But there comes a point when you have to channel that anger into some sort of positive action. And I think for you to ground in that, you have to have faith. And faith is critical. So that's what I would say to folks, young and old, and in between. It's this issue of faith. And Islam teaches us that throughout. When you read the Quran over and over, it talks about faith and having courage and sabr, the patience, because things could happen over the course of 200 years or 2 days, whatever. Patience is kind of a metaphysical thing too. Oftentimes when we think of patience, we think, oh my God, we have to have patience to wait for 200 years. Not necessarily.
Yeah. Actually, a fun fact, Afua, now that you're mentioning that, is that I learned that you initially intended to study women in Islam in Sierra Leone, but ended up staying in Canada to study Black history. I wonder if you could spill a little bit more about that, and how has being a Black Muslim woman impacted and influenced your work?
Yes. My original PhD thesis, or research, was to look at Islam, because I have a field in Islamic studies in West Africa. So I was going to look at women in Islam, women and faith in Sierra Leone and Guinea, that region. But honestly, I had a PhD advisor who was a hater, to put it mildly. And at the same time, as I was to go off and do my fieldwork, I got pregnant. So I got pregnant, and then the civil war in Sierra Leone started. So it really wasn't the time. Allah had other plans for me. So then I thought, okay, well, so I went back over to Canadian history, which is where I was for my master's degree, to do the PhD. So I went over into Canadian history and pursued Black Canadian history. But life has a way of coming full circle, because right now I'm also engaged now in research in Sierra Leone history, looking at Sierra Leone and Canada, right? The Black loyalists who migrated from Canada to Sierra Leone in 1792. And all this it's 230 years since the 1,200 people left Halifax Harbor and went to Sierra Leone. So all this week there have been commemorations and events, memorializing that departure from Canada and the founding of Freetown. So it's really interesting how I've come back full circle with that branch of research. So perhaps I will still do women and Islam or some form of Islamic studies. I don't know. I'm open to it. I know that there's a part of my heart that's calling me to look at that work again.
And what is meant for you will not miss you, inshallah.
Yeah.
So Ganiyat and Hannan, I'll send it over to you with a question, because I know for me, my experience growing up, I used to often think of my Blackness as separated from my Muslimness, which is kind of an absurd sort of, understanding. And as I got older and started to unpack these sort of ideas, I realized that really the contentions between the two were rooted in racism and anti-Blackness. So I'm just curious as to what your experiences were, and how being a Black Muslim has also impacted your own work and approaches to your activism. So Hannan, maybe we'll start with you.
So for me, I grew up in Alberta, so already like that distinction between Blackness and my Muslim identity was very explicit. That's kind of what I wanted to say. I grew up, seeing my mom wear the hijab and my older sister, so naturally I wanted to wear the hijab. It didn't become an issue really until elementary school, where I was noticing that, I wasn't able to hang out with the Muslim kids because there was a little explicit bit of anti-Black racism, and then when I would try to associate with Black people, I would be seen as an other. And then my Somalian identity would be involved, and there is a very, very tragic history with Somalian Canadians, specifically in Alberta. So my parents, they were kind enough to let me explore exchange trips during my junior high year, and I was given the privilege to go to Malaysia. For those who don't know, Malaysia is a predominantly Muslim country, one of the most Muslim countries, and it's also a very cohesive culture. So you have people that are of Indian background, of Chinese background, of even African descent, that are all living in this nation. And so it was really one of the first times in my life where I was able to stop and say, why am I separating how I interact with Black people and leaving the Islam out, or if I'm interacting with Muslims and I'm leaving out experiences of racism. And I've combined it in a way that made me feel safe, if that makes sense. I didn't care how everyone else was portraying themselves. I was able to say, Hannan, this is how you feel about Islam, and you shouldn't feel ashamed of it in spaces, and neither so of your Blackness. And so when I returned, I went to Camrose. Camrose is this tiny rural city in Alberta. The population's 70%, over 80. They're all seniors, they're all white. And I was a Black Muslim woman living there. So it was really the first test where I was able to say, do you really accept both of your identities now that you have no one to look at, no one to see? And that was the first time I came across Dr. Afua's writing, actually. I took a woman in histories class, and everyone in the class is writing on white women. And I was like, dang, I don't want to write on a white woman. I don't feel connected to it at all. So I went, and in the library, I'm not even kidding, it was so hard, so difficult to find any literature on Black women that I had to order it from a different university library to be sent. And that was the first time when I read this book, The Hanging of Marie Angelique, where I thought, subhanAllah, someone else not only went through that experience and was able to make a career out of it, combining their identities. It made me more sure of not just education, but also wanting to go into law and saying okay, I don't have to, feel that I'm so alone just because I don't see what my Muslim sisters and aunts are doing. I can feel them from their work, and I can take that with me. So yeah, that was my experience.
That's so beautiful, mashallah. Thank you for sharing that. And what about you, Ganiyat?
Yeah, I had a pretty similar experience to Hannan as well. I think for me, I didn't even realize the fact that they were two separate identities up until I was in Islamic school, and that was my first experience with racism. And obviously as kids there's cliques and stuff like that, but I remember going home and just being so confused as to what just happened and not really understanding what it meant at that time. And then I also went to Brunei, which is pretty similar to Malaysia, so a very Muslim country as well. But then within that, there was not a lot of Black Muslims, actually. So during that time, I was able to really connect with Islam. And then when I did finally move back to Calgary for my high school experience, I was the only Black Muslim in my school. I was the only one who wore hijab. I went to a predominantly white school, and I was just dealing with microaggressions on the daily. And I remember just dreading going to school every single day because I was like, is the principal going to tell me again that my hijab is against the uniform code? Is someone going to ask me, am I oppressed? Just really people not realizing like the silliness of their question, or like the offense of their questions like that, and comments like that. And as I grew into university, and you kind of have to figure out who you are. I think that's just the stage of like trying to figure out, okay, what am I about to do with my life? And I joined an African Caribbean Students Association, and it really transformed, because I was like, okay, at least here they're appreciating Black culture, they're appreciating Black people. And then it just was me having to figure out, okay, how am I going to connect with Islam? How am I going to, still navigate this world? As having the unique experience as a Black Muslim woman. And I think as a child, my mom has always told me, like, every time you leave this house, you're representing Black women, you're representing Muslims, you're doing this, you're doing that. And it is a lot of, pressure, because we're not afforded the same luxuries of like slipping up or, making a mistake. There's a lot of us, but very few of us at the same time, so there's a big burden in carrying that. So I think it was just, realizing that my intersections, they come from a place of love, like from my family, and, watching my mom grow up. My mom has always worn her hijab. And now that I have a little sister as well, she's getting inspired to wear a hijab. So I think for me, I'm always like, okay, what would younger Ganiyat have liked to see? And that really motivates like what I do. So I try to make sure that I'm doing my work from a place that I'm like, if 6-year-old Ganiyat was able to see this, she would be thriving right now. So that has been something that I think, being a Black Muslim woman, positive impact 100%. I think there's negatives that come with everything, but I wouldn't be who I am today without those experiences, for sure.
Mashallah, mashallah. Thank you for sharing that, both of you. And if I asked the other two a little bit earlier, but sort of fun question, I was asking, what were some self-care practices that you engage in when the work can get being so heavily involved in challenging dominant narratives and norms? It can get exhausting and daunting. So what are some tools you use? I mean, I think you alluded it to a little bit already with like your Islam and spirituality, but I wondered if you had any other tips or some key lessons that you could offer around staying grounded as leaders and change makers.
Sure. I love to walk. Walking is great. I try to walk at least 2 kilometers a day. I'm not always successful, but it's the goal. So walking, physical exercise, yoga is wonderful. And just hanging out with people, hanging out with my friends and family members, and cooking and laughing. I think those things are very healing and very therapeutic. And yeah, that's what I do. And just talking to people. Now with the COVID restrictions are lifting, so that's good. But during the last 2 years, and we all pivot to Zoom, that's a COVID word, pivot. And I talk to people on Zoom and also on phone. We just talking. I found talking to be really, really therapeutic. It's kind of like the best thing. Hanging out is it, right? That's it. Just hanging out with people, with friends and family. And then, if you have something really challenging, something to overcome, then prayer is always great. Talking about speaking things into existence, just having that communication with your creator, and doing devotions and meditation. So those things are what I do. And I always tell people, people say they have stress and going through whatever. I said, like, well, just pray. Make du'as.
Oh,
yeah.
mashallah.
Yeah, it's we have to find ways to survive, but we don't want to just survive. We want to have fun.
Yeah, we want to thrive.
Yeah, we want to have fun, and we want to have joy. Like, make joy be a daily, embody joy, and I make it be a daily part of our lives, but embody joy, because we want to leave tell the kids and younger people and everybody actually that joy is also our birthright.
That's right.
Joy is our birthright.
Mashallah, thank you for sharing that. Okay, before we wrap it up, I can't believe we got 15 more minutes left. I did want to get into if any of you want to share any works that you are working on right now that you want to share with the community, ways that we can support you, where we can go, just anything you really want to be able to share to the broader community about what's happening in your lives here and now. So Ganiyat, maybe we could start with you. Where can we find you? What are you working on? How can we support you?
Yeah, of course. So you can find me or you can support me through the IMX movement. So right now we're working on projects consistently through on more of a monthly basis. So for the month of March, we're going to be focusing on confronting white feminism. So that's going to be through a lot of talks with other Black scholars and also just focusing on their experiences and their interactions with dealing with Black feminism. So if you follow the IMX movement page, you'll be able to find more information on that. And then also with the Black Inclusion Association, we're working on, within the city of Calgary, kind of solidifying Black excellence. So we're having an event hopefully in the summertime that's just going to be focused primarily on just Black youth and their excellence in their art, in their, creativity and their excellence. So that's something that you can look forward to if you're in the Calgary area. You can follow the Black Inclusion Association. Yeah, that's kind of what I'll be up to in the next few weeks.
Mashallah, mashallah. What about you, Hannan? Where can
So
we find you? Anything you want to share?
yeah, I'm currently doing a research project for a grant I received from the Canadian Race Relations Foundations, and it's in regards to hate speech on university campuses. So I go to the University of Ottawa, and there was that whole nonsense 2 years ago about the usage of the N-word. And so this grant, I'm hoping to complete the findings at the end of June, but this month for March, I am looking for participants, and we are paying them $30 for an interview as well as a survey, specifically Black participants that have gone to university or are an alumni. And the program doesn't matter. And so I can share the link again with Ccmw and they can post it on their story.
Okay.
The other thing I'm working on is a page called What is Your Excuse? And I'm doing it with my best friend who's an artist. Her name is Destiny Kiramira. She's doing her PhD at McGill and she's a Times featured artist as well. So we both so she's producing art and I'm producing the literature. And I don't know how to explain it other than you just please check out the page.
Okay.
It's the last month in February, the theme was academia and being Black in academia. I personally have felt very disassociated with the idea of segregation that has happened in schools in Canada. There's not a lot of literature or information that I was able to find, but the painting that Destiny made was phenomenal. I think everyone should look at it after this if you have some time, and please do share it.
Okay, we will for sure, inshallah. Sister,
And what's the website, Hannan?
Oh, I'll share it with you. It's called What is Your Excuse? It's an Instagram page.
Okay. And I can send you something too about hate speech on campus. So we've had some incidents at Dalhousie University with, anti-Black hate speech and graffiti and that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
are you just looking at Ottawa? Are you just focusing on the University of Ottawa?
No, it's all of Ontario universities.
Okay. Oh, well, we're not in Ontario, so.
But that's okay. I would love to see how you were able to deal with that issue as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's not even dealing with the issue, it's an ongoing issue. So when you think you've dealt with it in 2018, it comes back in 2022. So
yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, subhanallah. What about you, Dr. Afua? Any projects that we should be on the lookout for? I know you always have lots of stuff going on, but anything specific you would like to share or how we can stay in touch with you?
Okay, so I'm leading this project called The Black People's History of Canada, which is a mammoth project. I'm like, what did I get myself into? It's a 3-year project it's really exciting, by the way. That was funded by Canadian Heritage. So we're looking at Black history across the country, including the Yukon, the North. Yes, there was a Black history in Canada's North, or Black stories. And so driven by research, and then the intention is to write curriculum, for from kindergarten to grade 12. Because one of the things we always hear, well, we do know that Black history is erased from the school's curriculum, right? Across the country. But we always hear teachers say, oh, we don't know where to find stuff. We're gonna make sure that people don't have those excuses anymore, because we're creating this website. Everything will be put on the website. Primary source documents, so on and so forth. So that's kind of what has taken up my attention these days. How can I be found? Well, look at my website, afuacooper.com. And to find me, otherwise, I'm in both history and sociology department at Dalhousie University. So my email addresses are on both sites. I also want to say too, as I hear Hannan and Ganiyat talking, I think about, my early days as a graduate student, right? Whether doing my master's or my PhD. And, being in Islam, being on the path of Islam, and the whole issue of feminism, some of the biggest haters were actually Black feminists, to be honest, who didn't see any value in being a person of faith. They were atheists or whatever else, and they had this orthodoxy about them, using the word orthodoxy, which is correct, because their way became like a religion, right? That if you weren't doing what they were doing, then somehow you're cast out of the fold. So that was very disheartening, because these were Black women. These were Black people. Some of them leading people in society. And so, being cast out of that fold, and then you're in the Ummah, but honestly, some of the viewpoints of some of the women in the Ummah was quite disheartening with respect to women's empowerment or women's liberation, right? So I think we do have a unique task. We are in a unique position, as others have gone before us and have done or continue to do. That it is also really, I don't want to use the word defend, but embracing our Islam, having the courage to do so in these spaces where, once upon a time it was very okay to be Islamophobic. People, feminists and other people would say that in front of your face. Like, I think it's just in the past 3 years, people are saying, oh, well, it's not so okay to be Islamophobic, right? People would just blatantly, women, white women, Black women, would just basically, Ganya talk about, oh, are you oppressed? Or, I remember once saying to a woman who I considered a friend about, my husband, something. I was saying, yeah. And she said, oh, he prays 5 times a day. Is he a fundamentalist? So, and I kind of use it as opportunity. I'm thinking, okay, this woman is stupid. Anyway, perhaps she doesn't know. So this is my opportunity to really educate her. And these are people who consider themselves really educated. So I think, point out this story is that we do have a unique standpoint or viewpoint, and it's great. It's wonderful.
Mashallah, no, that was so well said, and thank you for sharing that. I was wondering, I always do like to engage with our viewers a little bit, so thank you for everyone who listened in. Is there any questions you have for our panelists that I would be happy to share or ask before we end? But it's been such a beautiful and wonderful conversation. I'm leaving here feeling so full, so thank you all for this. We have to live our Islam and our Blackness loudly. Yes, agreed, Zainab. Thank you for sharing that. So yeah, I'm feeling like the work is daunting, but it has purpose, and we have a role to play. And wherever we are in our journeys, we could always be doing something. And Nuzat is asking, what is your advice for CCMW, if you have any? Is that for, I guess anybody could answer that if they want to take it on. Is there anything that CCMW as an organization, I guess, could be doing to support and be part of the work? Is that what you're asking, Nazat? I hope I got that.
I can like
Yep,
answer
Hannan?
first very quickly. I think having you on the board as well as having me has been a good first step for sure with connecting with Black Muslim women. The DARE project was phenomenal. Ganiyat being able to talk about what was happening in regards to hate crimes here in Alberta, like that was crucial work that I'm so proud that CCMW was able to take on. We don't really see a lot of Muslim national organizations step up when it comes to Black issues. They just, you know, when it's gun violence, there's like a basketball court that's built and then it's like, bye-bye. You don't see any type of initiatives to bring in Muslim women into the fold of organizations and give us positions of power. So I think what we're doing right now is a good first step. I do want to see more like policy initiatives. We have started like the legal programs, which I'm really proud of, but I think more policy pushes in regards to politicians. We see the conservative leadership running election about to happen. Like it'd be great if we could put out a report card or something on each of them, ranking how they stand when it comes to Black Muslim women issues. But again, that's just my 2 cents.
Excellent suggestions. Love it. Thank you so much. Anybody else want to add to that, or good?
Yeah, I love the profiles. You know, CCMW has done some really neat profiles. That's great. And just being out there as a voice, and also as a visual presence. You know, when you go on the website, all of the stories that are there. I have used the videos about, you know, Black Muslim women and the hate crime in Alberta. That's how I first met Ganiyat, through that video. I've used it in the classroom. Last summer, I taught a course on the civil rights movement in Canada, and when I gave, you know, lectures, so on, I use those videos, so they are very, very helpful. So thank you, Ganiyat, and thank you, CCMW, for those videos. Other ways is to just continue this conversation. We should do this again. We can do it again. We can bring in other women. Because I really do think we have a unique standpoint. I really believe that. I really believe that. You know, they say it's women who are changing the world, and that is true. Women are changing the world. Women are in the leadership position of the world. Yeah.
Thank you, mashallah.
And I think Black Muslim women definitely are changing Canada, are changing the discourse, changing the world.
Ameen, inshallah. And Ganiyat, any final sort of notes?
I mean, both Hannan and Dr. Cooper have said it. I think just for me, just inviting more Black Muslim women to spaces, I think, you know, for such a long time, I personally felt like there was no one willing to listen to our voices, but there are so many other amazing Black Muslim women, and I think they just need to be given the space. There's a lot of people that have been doing the work for a long time, but people aren't really, you know, receptive to listening. And I think also confronting, are people ready to listen, as opposed to engaging in tokenization, is something that I think a lot of organizations in general just have to confront. But, you know, just inviting them in spaces, making sure that you're appreciating their voices and are willing to take change lessons from them, for sure.
Okay, and that really brings us almost exactly to 2 p.m. So again, thank you so much to my sisters for taking the time today to share in this space with me, with us, and all of us who joined. I found it a very nurturing discussion. I'm very inspired and motivated, and it really was an honor to share this space with you three. So thank you again. Inshallah, we will see you again soon, whether it's physical or virtual. Ramadan is coming up, so Ramadan Kareem. Hopefully we'll be having some iftars soon, and maybe we'll run into each other, you know, eat prayer, Afua. But yes, inshallah, everybody take good care, and we'll see you soon, inshallah. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Zahra. Walaikum salam. Bye, guys.
Bye.